have to bring articles of impeachment.
Yes.
It is time for the Congress of the United States of America, notwithstanding numbers, notwithstanding what may happen if the other side does not join us, but it's time for us to do our duty and bring articles of impeachment against a reckless, ruthless, lawless secretary as well as a president of the United States of America.
Yes.
Kristi Noem must go.
Yes. Yes.
But let me complete the sentence. She must go to jail.
Yes.
She must go to jail. What Kristi Noem did in a cover up the deaths of people seen actually terminated on national TV is not only sinful, it's more than regrettable, it is criminal. She must go to jail. To jail. Lock her up.
Lock her up.
Lock her up. Lock her up. Lock her up. Friends, this is racial profiling, but to be more specific, to add the specificity that makes the difference, it is racist profiling. This is the epitome of what the Constitution finds onerous. It is a means of identifying people that is not just unacceptable, it is unconstitutional. And we have a duty, responsibility, and an obligation as members of Congress to take up this cause as we're taking it up in the Homeland Security Committee. It was the Honorable Benny Thompson who assembled us and told us, we have to bring articles of impeachment.
Yes.
It is time for the Congress of the United States of America, notwithstanding numbers, notwithstanding what may happen if the other side does not join us, but it's time for us to do our duty and bring articles of impeachment against a reckless, ruthless, lawless secretary as well as a president of the United States of America. I want to close with this. If you look like you're Latino, you may be stopped and taken away. If you sound like you're Latino, if you look and sound like you're Latino, you may be stopped and removed. I have now, pending in my office, a case wherein ICE approached a father, and they took this father into custody and required the father to go to the school so that they could take his daughter as well. Took them out of the country. This is the kind of behavior and lawlessness that people are having to cope with. People are living in fear in the United States of America, of all hues, I might add. It is time for the fear to end and ICE to be out. I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you.
I wanted you to see this for a couple of reasons, and I'll be brief. One, we cannot assume that racism applies only to black people. It applies to people of color, and it applies to our Latino brothers and sisters in this time of crisis. And if we're going to stand against racism, we've got to stand against it not only as it impacts us, but also as it impacts any person in this country, and that includes them. And a good many of the people who are part of the wait staff this morning are persons of color, and they are Latino. I want them to receive an ovation from us for what they are doing to serve us, and I want them to know that we're going to try and make sure that they are not stopped and they are not taken out of the country, that they don't have to carry IDs on them, that they can be just as American as anybody else in this country. But now, back to what I was explaining about this thing of our not being able to have our leadership properly recognized. And I'm going to use the best example. Sometimes a living example is the best example. And I'm going to be that living example because I want you to know that we do all of these things and the Houston Chronicle doesn't cover them. I am not afraid of the Houston Chronicle. I am not the Houston Chronicle's congressperson. I am the people's congressperson. And if the Houston Chronicle never covers me again, it will not matter because I will still have my dignity and my principles. Let the Houston Chronicle do what it may, but it ought to cover stories like this, to cover people who are being ill-treated, mistreated, and pushed out of this country. So I want you to know that there are some people not of goodwill. Now, if you have young children and you think that your child cannot hear a certain level of profanity, this may be a good time to remove your child, because we're about to play in just a moment an audio. And this is important. Do you remember Emmett Till? If you do, raise your hand. Okay. Emmett Till's mother saw her son, who had been beaten beyond recognition. And everyone said to her, "You have to have a closed casket funeral." She said, "No, I want the world to see what happened to my son." And it was having that done, showing the world what happened to her son, that had an impact on the civil rights movement. It really accelerated the pace. Sometimes you just have to let the world see the horrors of racism. Look it in the face. In this case, we're going to hear the horrors of racism that we have to endure. Please, cue the audio.
This message is for Representative Al Green and staff. Pro tip: if you act like a nigger, you will be treated as a nigger and viewed as a nigger. If you don't like being called a nigger and being referred to as a nigger, stop acting like a nigger.
You ain't gonna impeach nobody, you fucking nigger. Try it, and we'll lynch all you fucking niggers. You'll be hanging from a tree. I didn't see anybody calling for the impeachment of your nigger Obama when he was born in Kenya. He's not even an American. So fuck you, nigger.
This is what I and my staff have to endure. This is why the Congress of the United States of America has given us $20,000 a month for our security. This is why some people might not find going into politics an acceptable line of work. We have to do what has not been done, and that is stand up to this racism and let everybody know that we will not bend, we will not break, we will not cower, we will not allow racism to dominate our lives. We're going to take it to them just as they're bringing it to us. We're going to stand and fight against racism, and we're going to demand that newspapers like the Houston Chronicle cover these racist stories so that people will understand that while we want to fight anti-Semitism, and we must, anti-Semitism is abhorrent and we have to fight it. But we also have to fight racism the same way we fight anti-Semitism in this country. We have to do it. To this end, I have introduced a resolution in Congress styled affirming that racism is real and present in the United States of America and condemning invidious discrimination, which remains pervasive in the country. Now, let me explain how racism impacts you in ways that you don't know. I served on the Financial Services Committee. I was the chairperson of Oversight and Investigation, and if ever we take the House back again, I hope to be chairperson again. Under the leadership of the Honorable Maxine Waters. And here is what we acquired the empirical evidence to substantiate. We found that when a person of color goes into a bank to get a loan, that person of color, many of you have suffered this fate. That person of color will have to pay more for the loan, will get terms that are not as favorable, and get less money than a person who is not of color and less qualified. That impacts your ability to have a house note that is reasonable, that you can afford. That impacts your ability to buy a car that you can afford and not have a note that you cannot pay. There is still racism in lending in this country, and it still impacts people of color. And when you go to buy that car, there is something called the front office deal. This is where you make a great deal on the car. But by the time you get to the rear office, there is something called the back office steal, wherein all the gains that you got in the front office are taken from you in the back office. And you can't prove it because everybody can get a deal that's different from everybody else. What do I mean? I mean this. You and another person of a different hue can go into the office on the same day, buy the same car, have the same credit, and you can pay more than that other person simply because of how you look. That has got to stop in the United States of America. And when I go to Congress, this is what I fight. I fight the racism that causes you to be shortchanged, to not receive the same pay as other people receive for the same work that you're doing. I'm going to fight to make sure that you don't pay more for your insurance because you happen to live in an area of town that has a zip code where there are streets that are not as repaired as everybody else, and you pay more for your insurance. I'm going to fight to make sure that you have the same opportunities as others, and that we will no longer find ourselves living in a country where black unemployment is nearly always twice that of white unemployment. You cannot convince me that after all these years, black unemployment is going to be twice that of white unemployment. Look, I'm not condemning all white people. There are white people of goodwill who are on our side and working with us. But we've got to change this, because if we don't change this, that means that our retirement income is going to be less. That means that we can't afford some of the finer things in life that other people can afford. Yes, there has been redlining. There are people who don't want to sell you homes if you live in a certain part of the community and you want to upgrade your life, your living standard, as it said, and move to another part of the community where you can have a bigger home, have a different yard. That is your privilege to live wherever you choose to. But there are still people in this country who don't want to sell you that home. But if you're willing to pay more than it's worth, they'll sell it to you. We've got to change that.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app now.